Welcome to week 3 of the fall session of Ironman that we've entitled Influence and Connection from John 15. This week we're going to take a unique twist on something that we often don't think about when it comes to the human realm or the reality of our daily lives. We certainly do when we think of plants or vines or grape bushes or whatever it might be, but when it comes to humanity, we don't think about this too much. And it's the whole reality of pruning, dealing with that which drains life away from the vine or the main part of a tree into the branches. So this week we're going to take an honest look at how does that occur and what are things that need to be clipped off, because in the whole world of viticulture there actually are these little things called Suckershoots, and they really are prone to rob the very life of the vine going into the branches so it can fulfill its destiny and purpose. We're going to take a look at some of that this week and apply it to our very lives. It should be pretty exciting, and I hope even a little bit vulnerable. Hey, if you have your phone, if that's what you're using, or you actually have something called a Bible with you, we're going to read a few verses. I want to make a few opening comments together, and then we're going to get some time around the table, and then we're going to come back and have some fun, all right? So before we move on, I would love to just kind of, by way of review, real quickly, okay, hear from anybody who would be willing just to share any insights or reflections that have been meaningful to you so far in just the 2 weeks that we've been together. We've been talking about this wonderful passage in John 15, and anything that maybe is just leapt out and you said, man, that concept's been really helpful to me, or that's been a new thought to me, or when we talked about this, that was really, really helpful, or a question I've had has maybe been around this. Anybody, I'm not trying to force it, but just by way of review, is there anybody that's had anything that's been on their mind that they'd like to share for just a minute?
You know what, Pat? I shared...
Thank you, Bert, for being loud, too. No, really, thank you.
I shared the verse with a couple guys at the church I go to. I go to Central Christian down in Rosedale.
Yeah.
And we meet once in a while, but I share this with them. And it's amazing because all during the week I was running into people that I do.
Yeah.
And just stuck in my head the vine. And that's what I did. It's been like planted in my heart.
Yeah.
You know, when things go astray in my head just by myself, I think of the vine.
Yeah. So we, again, it's interesting. Here's Jesus. Again, let's get some context here. This is called, some people say, his goodbye message, his goodbye sermon. Within hours, he's going to be hanging on a cross. He's been with his team for up to 3 years. He's getting ready to say goodbye. He's getting ready to transition. They're going to have a chance to take over. He's already told them this is going to happen, but they haven't got it yet. They really haven't got it yet. In fact, he's even is going to tell them shortly after this that they're going to actually walk away from him, and that didn't go over real well. But he gives them this vision, if you will, a picture. A vision is nothing more than a picture of what will be. And so he tells them how this thing is going to continue. You all know that Jesus, when he was here, was not omnipresent, meaning he couldn't be everywhere at one time. He was limited in where he could be. Well, now he's not, because what he was beginning to coalesce here is a team of people who were going to be his representatives around the world wherever they went. So you could say right now that this person of Jesus is in millions of places around the globe right now. Now, how could that be possible? I got you, right? How could he be? Through us. He literally puts his spirit in people. This is what we talk about in chapter 16, chapter 17. He gives them this vision so that now I'm going to be in other places, but I'm going to be there in you, in your skin, in your hands, in your feet, in your eyes, in your mouth. That's where I'm going to be. But he helps them remember that what he wants them to do in the world, this is what you were saying, I think, Bert, isn't going to be based on their charisma or necessarily their ability. It's really about a vine, right? And what does the vine typically have off of it? Yeah, branches. This mic's a little hot, Dave. Thank you. And so, he's giving them a picture to communicate reality. He's basically saying, maybe he says, I am the vine. If he is that, then who does it mean isn't that? Us, right. We are branches. If we're the branches, what does that mean he isn't? Branches. Which means this. we really need Him. He chooses to, if you will, display His life on or in and through us. Everything that the vine is flows to the branches. The branches actually get to be a display table of the vine. This is beautiful. This isn't about necessarily trying harder. I know that kind of smacks against our spirit, but it's more about connection, right? Connection between the vine and the branch. It's just natural. If this connection stays healthy between the vine and the branch, what will the branch tend to do? Now, this just becomes so obvious, right? So then you have to ask the question, then why is it then that we don't live more like Jesus? Why don't I at times? Why does it seem that my circumstances, somebody's attitude towards me, a driver, a decision made in a business meeting, something one of my kids tells me, a look from your wife or girlfriend or whatever, all of a sudden flips a switch in you and you go AWOL in this? Have you ever done that? Yeah, me too. Just glad I'm not the only one. I was getting scared there for a while. But Jesus is trying to communicate something to us that if we just stay connected, all the resources that we actually need to live well are what? They're at our disposal. So he's really saying it's all about Him. It's not about meeting Him and then trying really, really hard to be a better branch. I got to be a better branch. Oh my gosh. Or you look at somebody else and go, oh man, Bob's a better branch than me. I stink at this thing. And so we do all these comparisons. But you never ask, where does the fruit that really brings life coming from? If it comes from there, then it's all about Him. It's not about me. This is why this big biblical word for this is abide or remain or stay put. Another way to say it is find your most comfortable place. It really could even be say stay at home on a cold, freezing winter day in Montana this weekend. 2.5 feet of snow. 30-mile-an-hour winds. A crazy blizzard. And they're just basically saying, abide in your house. Stay at home. This is kind of what Jesus is saying. Just stay here. Stay right here, man. And everybody wants to go like, how? How? Before we get to that, because I want to show you a picture, I want to tell you the greatest how, I think, is just pondering the reality. So often we want to run to methodology. It's like, well, okay, tell me to abide. Like, well, the first question is, well, if you tell me to do that, how do I do it? How do you do it? Is there a manual? Is there 5 easy steps? No and no. How about you just ponder, why did Jesus say this is how the kingdom's going to get done? And He basically says, you see that vine with the grapes? That's it. Just think about that. Ponder that. Did you ever think that pondering something in your mind actually helps create it in your life without doing anything other than pondering the concept? Let me prove it to you. How many of you have thought about something that somebody did to you and it actually produced bad outcomes in your behavior? Okay, did anybody have to teach you how to have bad outcomes? No, you just stewed on what somebody did to you. And all of a sudden, because you thought about it a lot, it got into your craw, so to speak. And somebody else came across your path, and they gave you that look, and all of a sudden, what came out of you was something crazy. See, I could draw you an illustration of an iceberg, and you'd get exactly what I'm talking about right now. Because you see, when it gets in you, it's going to come out of you.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And I'm just saying, when you just ponder this reality, so the fact is, Bert, you just start thinking about the vine. I'm just a branch. I'm just a vine branch. I promise you, you just think about this, you'll stay there more often than if you just came up with 5 easy methods. Because then you'll be beginning to think, oh my gosh, I didn't do my reading yet. I guess I'm not abiding in the vine. I didn't pray enough. I didn't give enough. I mean, like, oh man, what am I doing? What if you just pondered, wherever you go, He's in you. Right now. He's at your disposal every second. I mean, you think God cares about business meetings? Yes. Do you think He cares about technology? Yes. Mike builds homes. You think He cares about how well Mike builds homes? Is it only the buyer? No. He does care. See, this is where we make the secular-sacred distinction that's just nuts. What makes something secular is its direction, not its category. You can do, you can do anything if you do it in a way that you want to honor God and bless people, and it's sacred. But you can leave God out, it can be very selfish, and it won't be secular. But we make these categories so that, guys who work at churches have sacred work. Sacred. But Steve, who's walking into Delaney and Dirk every day, they got a secular job as teachers. I think that's crazy. I can't think of a more sacred thing to do. Let me put it to you another way. You don't think there is sacred teachers in the school system, but sometimes secular pastors in churches? Okay, we're going to stop right there, all right? You know what I'm saying. So here's what I'm saying. So tonight, there's another word, so let's read it. John 15. Jesus says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. This is one of your verses you're looking. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. But every branch that does bear fruit, He what? Prunes. So that it might be even more fruitful. This is next week, okay? But you are already clean, Jesus said, because of the word I've spoken to you. Now remain in me, stay at home in me, if you will. Abide in me, stay put, remain in me, and I will remain in you. Isn't that beautiful? No branch can bear fruit by itself. Impossible. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. He who remains in me, and I in him, will bear much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Now again, what we talked about last week, obviously people do a lot apart from God. But I think what Jesus is trying to say in terms of qualitative stuff, eternal stuff, stuff of deep magnitude, God's kind of fruit, nothing. Okay? So here's what we want to think about. There is a little concept that I introduced last week to you guys that a lot of what grows on this here isn't just good stuff. There are some things that grow here that have to be pruned. Good branches we'll talk about next week get to be pruned, but there's also a little thing called a sucker shoot. And that is a picture right there of a little sucker shoot. Now you know what that does is hinders and, if you will, prohibits productivity and fruitfulness. How do you think it does that? Any thoughts? Yeah, what's that, Frank? Yeah, it diverts or tries to suck energy, if you will, life-giving sap away from the vine that's going to the branch. It kind of gets right in here and it inhibits this flow so that the branch doesn't have all that it needs to actually be what it's intended to be. The branch can even become malnourished. It can even eventually, potentially what? Die. It can eventually die. Because that which is meant for it gets drained out of it, and get the sucker shoots never bear fruit. They only greatly reduce the quality and the quantity of the fruit of the branch that's meant to produce it. The sucker shoot doesn't produce fruit. It just reduces the quality and the quantity on the branches that are actually meant to produce fruit. Does this make sense? All right, now I want you to think about this in a minute in regards to somebody's life. Transition that thought. Jesus is saying this. He's pruning. We're going to talk about this later. Sometimes there's good things that produce good fruit. They also need to be cut back. We'll show you some pictures. But there's other things that are negative that need to be cut back in our life that drain the emotional energy, that compromise our character, and I even think can dull our conscience. There are things that come into our life, do they not? That can compromise our character over time. That can actually dull our conscience and can drain our emotional energy. So tonight we want to talk about some of those. So around your tables, I'd love for you to consider this whole concept of Suckershoots. And what are some of those when it comes to the human experience? Those things that drain life out of us emotionally or tend to skew our sense of purposefulness and kindness and attitudes that are life-giving in the context of our relationships. Secondly, what might be one specific area where you find yourself really struggling with that really needs some attention because it's draining life out of you? It's sucking the best out of your relationships with people that you love the most. Give some time to share about these things and even push yourself to be a little bit more vulnerable. It'll be worth it, trust me. And you aren't the only one. I can guarantee that. Hey, here's what I'd like to do. You know, I don't know about you, but let me just give you some context here, okay? I know some of this could be hard for some of us to believe, but I want to just affirm this, that the Lord is for us. All of us. He's for us. And the vine is smart enough to know that the branch just can't take care of itself. Right? So as we talk about some of these things, again, you know, sometimes the metaphors can get, you know, a little hard to, you know, just stay in that place. But I want us to try to stay there because Jesus is, again, in this vision, He's giving us reality about who He is and who we are. And that we have the privilege to remain in that and have access to everything that He is. I mean, how many of you think you could have more peace of mind than you do? Like, I'll vote for myself. How much do you think your capacity to trust God enables that? I was talking to a guy today. There's some things going on in his life that he has no control over. He just can't change it. But the one thing he can do, at some point you get like, God, what can I do? Like I can worry. That's an option. Or I could trust. And Lord, if you reveal something to me, I'll do what you reveal to me. But I'm gonna live with open hands. So I just want to share as we share this. Now it isn't to try to get a list of stuff that now I got to go work on, you know, because I got to get myself together. Ask the Lord, what, God, might you be speaking to me about? Because you really want me to flourish. You want me to produce fruit, much fruit, and more fruit. And so I don't want anything, Lord, to come between me and you. And so, you know, this is like your most vital relationship. Now, I will tell you this, give you a perfect illustration, and this isn't, I came from a broken family. When I was 7, my parents got divorced. They were married 17 years. They had a lot of skin in the game before they called it quits. I think some of the reasons that this happened was not because they married and said, oh, if it doesn't work, we'll just get divorced. It's never easy. Some of you in this room know what I'm talking about. It's not easy, nor fun. You don't get married to have it not work. But there are reasons why it happens, right? And sometimes things grow in the relationship that we don't know how to tend to, so we don't tend to it. Or we're embarrassed about it. But it doesn't change the relationship. It doesn't make it any better. And so one of the things I think that's hard for all of us is vulnerability and authenticity. It's interesting, the Scriptures tell us one of the greatest ways to be healthy is to confess. It's confession. It just means you're agreeing with God about what He already knows. I hope you guys know that, right? Like when God was in the garden, so to speak, and He said, where are you to Adam and Eve? He wasn't like, man, they fooled me again. Where could dang, I got to quit playing this game with them. That was a relational word. It's like, where did you drift from? You're not where you belong. You know it, and I know it. So let's get honest about it. But I want you to know this isn't like, I got to improve above the waterline and get my stuff together. God's saying, look, let's protect what you and I have here, what I'm giving you, and this will have a chance of taking care of itself. Fair? Just want to encourage us in that, okay? So, let's talk about some things as you think about when you were trying to translate some of these Suckershoots into maybe humanity or things that might be most apt to drain our joy and emotional health and power away from us. What were some of the things you guys came up with? Any thoughts? I mean, anybody. If it's nothing, I'll give you a couple. But I think you guys probably came up with some stuff. Or what stuff came up around your table? Yeah, Dirk, thank you. Real loud.
Looking at the list, you come into the day and go, wow, here are the things I know I can't do all of this. And allowing that to control your demeanor for the day.
Yeah, so how would you, could it be just expectations?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I'm just trying to put words to, any of you guys have expectations that you kind of, man, you're loaded up. You're kind of frustrated before you even walk out the front door. You're already kind of battling it. I don't know if that, I think sometimes we can have that. Here's one thing Jesus said that's just to encourage you. One of the things I love about Jesus, and I've even talked to people that don't know the Lord and say, they'll admit this, I said, is that He spoke truth, whatever else you think about Him. And one of the things He said this, have I not told you, in this world, you're going to have bad work days. He just said, in this world, you will have trouble. You will. So, let it be part of your expectation. It's just a reality. There's nothing wrong with you. Because I think sometimes we can even have expectations of God, right? Like, I have an idea of how life should go. When life doesn't go how I think it should go, then where do we end up going sometimes? I mean, really, where do you go? I mean, what does it do to your relationship with the Lord? Have you ever felt, I have, like, hey, God, you missed on this one. Like, you missed on this one. Like, I thought we had a deal. I mean, I told you, like, I thought if I gave my life to you, you don't know how it's going to turn out. But when it turns out different than what you thought, then your expectations get revealed of God. I tell you this, I've learned for me that some of my truest thoughts of God are when life's the hardest. That's when usually my truest thoughts of God get revealed. Is when the heat gets turned up and it exposes this. And then I realize the God that I worship is a lot of times just a God of my expectations. He's a God of my wants. He's a God of my desires. He's a God of my playbook. He's not God, like, One of the things that I love about the book of Job, and everybody's just, when you read Job, you go like, God, I'm just glad I'm not that dude. You're like, what's the point of Job? Like, I don't totally know except this. I think indirectly, and I'm still thinking about this, that God's coming in the back door on Job to say this. Hey, Job, you had a ton that you didn't deserve that I gave you. You were blessed. The bottom falls out. Everybody's making these false assumptions about you based on this. Thinking, what did you do, Job? Like, when life's bad, you must have done something. God's going, that's not the case either. And then, so Job starts asking questions. God doesn't answer Job's questions. You know what He does? He asks more questions. And Job's asking questions down here, and God's asking questions way up here. Like, where were you when I created the stars and the heavens? Job, do you understand the rotation of the earth? Job, and he just keeps going bigger and bigger. And He's not to smash Job down. And at one point, Job goes, I get it. God goes, I'm not done yet. I mean, really, you read chapter 38, 39. He amps him up again. And then he gets Job to this point in chapter 42. It's amazing. He goes, God, I know you can do all things. And no plans of yours will ever be thwarted. He basically took Job through the question saying, look, Job, I'm not giving you answers unless you can give me answers. But what I can give you is me. Can you trust me? And Job happened to get a lot more back, right? We don't always get that here, do we, this side of glory? But expectations are huge, are they not? And so we have to right size it. Do you ever look at other people and go like, God, really, like I'm way kinder than them. How did that flip get that house? Really? We do all kinds of things like this. And so it just exposes. I think we have to right size this stuff. Like, are we worshiping God because of who He is, or what I hope it will be, and things will turn out? Sometimes you go on vacation and it rains the whole time. It sucks, I get it, but it happens, right? Yeah. Yeah.
What do you have written there next to the...
John 16:33. Thank you. How about another one? This is really good. Keep going, man. Yeah.
It just could be bad attitudes, and possibly that could stem from circumstances in your life that you just never learned how to.
Deal with?
Yeah.
Wow, Josh, thank you. Did you hear what Josh just said? He said, could it be bad things or circumstances that happened in your life that you never learned to deal with? And if you never learn to deal with it, what do you think that means? It's time that you never dealt with it. Okay, let me put it to you another way. John 3, Jesus said this. This is a judgment, that light is come into the world, but men love darkness instead of light. See, but he says this, whoever loves darkness doesn't come into the light, for fear that his deeds will be what? Exposed. I'm trying to make a point here. Listen to Psalm 90, verse 8. Josh, I'm so glad you brought this up. Lord, you have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. What I'm saying to you is this, that I think Josh brought out. Secrets and unaddressed wounds drain life from the vine. You know why? You live with the false pretension of what's really going on. And you hide. Psychologist friend of mine said this to me, Bob Bingham. He goes, you know, people are only as healthy as the secrets they keep. This is really crazy, but it's true if you think about it. You're only as healthy as the secrets you keep. Because it doesn't mean it's not in there. So I could say this to you, but I'm going to say it to you and use it as an illustration. So you guys know I get to go to Helping Up every week. In fact, God willing, tomorrow I'm going to have a chance to go down and be with some guys that really become good friends of mine. These are some of the most courageous guys in the world, but here's what they would even tell you. One of the hardest things about their recovery is growing up. Is that fair to say, Matt? Yeah.
Fair.
And taking responsibility for things in our life, right? Me too. And they would even say this. I said, so picture your last argument with your girlfriend or your wife if you're married, and imagine it being videoed, okay? And then after it's over, you get to watch it. And you get to evaluate, is it an elementary school, middle school, and I've said this before, high school argument? Like, how old are you? Or is it two civil adults really trying to solve a problem by rationally listening to each other, understanding each other, and getting to a better place? And you can see guys look down and they go, oh, damn, man, you got to be kidding me. Like, come on. And here's what we know, like, these things get deposited into our heart, and it does stuff in our life, real experiences. And it does stuff. And what comes out is crazy. This is why when craziness goes in, we kind of have to take a look at it. This is what Jesus wants to do. So I think when you keep coming up against something that's repeated, you might need to say, you know what, maybe I need some help thinking about this. Maybe there's more to this story than even I know. I've told you guys about this Johari window thing before. I don't have time to go into it, but you can look it up. It's Johari, J-A-H-A-R-I, window, 4 quadrants. One of them is this: things that other people see in you that you don't see. They see it, you don't see it. If somebody else sees it, but Bob doesn't see it, what's that called? In here, besides trouble, it's a blind spot. Exactly. You know, we have blind spots. It might say this, like somebody would maybe say to you, like, dude, did you ever know that when somebody reacts this way that you kind of just fly off the handle? Did you ever know, like, when the conversation goes in this direction, you just kind of disappear or amp up or minimize stuff? Do you know that when the conversations get hard, you just minimize stuff. You pull away. You get no big deal. It'll be all right, it'll be all right. All I'm saying is, hey guys, you're grown men, but I also want to tell you this. It's okay sometimes to be afraid. Let me tell you this, you're not adequate. You haven't got it all together. Me either. It was a liberating day when I could say to myself, you know, you actually need the Lord. Like, Goody, you're messed up. Like, you do not treat your wife the way she deserves to be treated all the time. You've acted small. You've belittled her at times by your not staying in the room and owning up. You've been little when I created you for more. Why? And he knows why. So you go on this little journey. Because here's what I know. I want to be way more fruitful in that relationship than I am. So you have to deal there. Does this make sense to you guys? This is real stuff, right? Every day. I didn't make this up. So Josh, thank you for that. I think secrets and unaddressed wounds is another thing that just saps this thing out of us. How about another one, Mike? And then we'll go to Bob.
Two things that I think ended up being related to each other. One was envy of what those people have, and then workaholic tendencies, whatever that.
Yeah, so let's do workaholic real quick. So if you're a workaholic, that's up here for me. I would say, what's driving that? That's what you do. I would say you want something if you're like that. What is it? What's driving that? That's what we got to get at, right? Could be recognition. And why do we need to be recognized so deeply? Because we want to feel significant. Well, that's the way I can control my significance. Well, what if you get fired? What if you get demoted? What if you get overlooked? What if they downsize? Then all of a sudden, you're screwed, right? Not really. Only if you tie your wagon to that. This is big. Like envy could be an opposite form in some ways of jealousy, or say it different, starts with a P. Pride. They have it. I don't have it. I deserve it more. Envy's even worse than jealousy. Envy's got a bite to it. You know what I mean? It's almost like not only am I jealous that they have it, I don't want them to have it. They shouldn't have it. And I wish they didn't have it. It's got this to it. But indirectly, it's almost like, well, who are you? Like, what makes you? Like, I think pride is a killer when it comes to this too. I appreciate you saying that. Here's what I know. I think it's easy sometimes to think that we know more than we do. How do you respond to critique? Do you like it? I can't say I'm a great fan of it, but I've learned to embrace it because it's like, you know, it's so funny. I've learned that when I just know that I'm really loved in the Lord, and I'm one person, I'm comfortable in my skin, like, I'm probably going to get some things wrong. What do you think, Steve? And, you know, like, when you're humble enough to say, you know, I got that one wrong, you can probably grow. But you got to save face all the time. It's pretty hard, right? How many marriages have gone down the tubes because nobody could own their crap? Like, it was just too much to say, I was wrong. I acted little. I was inconsiderate. This one's on me. You can't control somebody else, but you have 100% control of yourself. This is why it says in 1 Peter 5, God's opposed to the proud. But you know what he does? He beats them up. That's what the scripture says, right? No, he gives what? Grace to the humble. This is deep. This is another reason I think Suckershoots gets us, because we don't really know what we're for enough. So this is why I think another one is the worries of this world. Jesus said this in Mark 4:19, you know, the worries of the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the deceitfulness of riches. We've got things, like every one of us, we all have them. It's more about how we handle them than where our focus is. Like everybody's got stuff. We all got bills to pay. We all see things that are attractive, whether it's a woman or stuff or what. It's not rich. We get the deceitfulness. It's when this isn't being nurtured, other things can start looking pretty good. When God doesn't meet my expectations, other things can start looking pretty good. You know, we just find ourselves drifting. But when we know where we are, this is huge. Because other stuff then begins to, even down in Helping Up, you know, it's crazy to say to men, because it's a new paradigm to say to them, like, you know, your biggest thing you're going to learn here isn't necessarily how to not do drugs and alcohol again, whatever your poison is. It's to really figure out what you're for. If the only thing you're concerned about is, I just can't do that again, now you're living against something. The question is, what's big enough to keep your heart's affection away from stuff that you know is crushing your life, because you're finally actually understanding why'd you go to it in the first place. And when guys begin to shift this paradigm, then there's a whole other way of seeing reality. And I think, Bob, you're demonstrating that in just your sharing. So thank you very, very much. How about maybe one or two more? This is really, really good. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Mine was prosperity, because as things
Prosperity?
Yeah, as things start to go well, I become distant because I think I got this.
You got this.
Got a good day, having a great day at work, a couple of days at work, money's adding up, relationships are going well. I got this. I almost forget to get down on my knees and thank God, ask Him for His mercy, ask Him for His grace, and give the glory to Him. I think it comes with the word you used before, a paradigm growing up. I didn't grow up in my faith. I recently came to the past couple years, thankfully for Chad bringing me here. Really motivate me to, get to the vine. But I did a lot of really good things at a young age, accolades, and a lot of accomplishments, and I thought it was me doing it. But what it really was, in reality, now I realized, was God's mercy, His patience, His grace for me to walk in His purpose until I found Him.
Wow.
So I think for me, when things start to go well, I start to get distant and break off, if you will. I think I got this.
You see that? Anybody? So, here's a great thing. You kind of know that. So that the bell goes off, right? Got this. So here's the other thing. Chad knows that now too. So now when you're brothers and you walk together, it's like, okay, we've shared. We understand each other a little bit. And all of a sudden, maybe you hit I don't know, all that you do in work. Let's say, man, it goes really, really well. It's like ding, 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 ding. Chad, hey, dude, I know you got this. You didn't always have this. And you can lose this. And what are we going to do with this? Because and then, one of the things that I love about the Lord, even with resource, it's kind of funny that God would ask us to give in some ways, right? Like who's it really for? I mean, it honors the Lord, right? But here's the point. Here's what I know. We got little grandkids, and it's it's really funny because if you give them a penny on a dime is not much. A dime on a buck, what's that really? You said a buck on 10? 10 on 100? Start feeling like 100 on 1,000? Okay, here's you start feeling 1,000 on 10 grand. 10 grand on 100. It starts adding up, doesn't it? And here's the deal. Here's why I know. I think the Lord, more than anything else, for me in my life, I go God, I know why you're doing this. Because you want me to know that my heart is in love with the right thing, that I'm living this way, that I know even that I have. It's like I'm more uptight sometimes about giving this than I am all that I have left. And He allows me to nurture and eat and go out and have clothes and do different things with. I'm like, how much do we have to give? He's saying, you don't have to give anything. I'm inviting you. This whole 10% thing, I think there's just enough bite in 10% to keep your heart adjusted. And I think the good news is you can give a lot more. This has been the greatest joy of our life because there was a time where my wife and I couldn't hardly give a dime. I mean, literally. It is so enjoyable right now to get to a point where we're able to do more than we ever imagined. But here's what the Lord did through some people that taught me. If you don't start, you'll never end up another place. So how old are you now, Jess? Just turned 27. That's awesome. Mel said he can't even remember 27. He doesn't even know how old he is. But here's the great news. God's going to entrust you with stuff the rest of your journey. And He can take that and make it 10 times more than what we would do with it, right? Take that, and all of a sudden, whatever you think, man, if you surrender it, then all of a sudden He takes it and makes more fruit, much fruit, and you know it's Him. So this is so great that this self-awareness is really important. How about maybe one more, because time's a wasting here. Second one. Yeah, thank you.
Anxieties.
Anxieties. Yeah. Say a little more about that to us, because nobody can understand that at all in this room, I'm sure.
I mean, they take you away from your whole day, from your work day to your personal life. And anxiety, there's so many Suckershoots that stem from anxieties. It's like the Suckershoot off the Suckershoot, because you get anxious. I was telling them, you get anxious, and all you want to do is just worry and sleep it away, and you're not facing what you're actually going through.
Yeah, and help me with this, because this is so great. What do you think the anxiety is really rooted in? If you could track it down, to what are you really trying to get? What is it?
I mean, it's rooted in fear.
Yeah, which is rooted in, keep going. I'm only pushing us. I'm not just you personally. I'm talking to all of us now. Lack of trust. Keep going, what?
Control.
Control, right? Like if you knew you had unlimited control and you could press the button and all that you wanted would happen right away, it'd be great. You wouldn't, but you can't. This is why Jesus says, here's the option. Here's how Jesus cures worry. This is so crazy. He goes, look at birds and look at flowers. Like, what? Like, what? Birds and flowers, Lord? Because you've done a little bit better than that? No, birds and flowers. Like the birds, like, look at them. They don't worry. Take care of them every day. Lilies of the field. And I think he's saying to us in Matthew 6, he's telling me, like, you can worry all you want. You're not going to add one day to your life. Or, if you're wise, see the worries of this world, you can say, look, the vine has got me today. This is the only day. He says, don't worry about tomorrow. Here's why. Every day's got plenty of trouble of its own. Like, today's got plenty. Some of you guys still haven't finished today. I don't mean worrying about it. I mean today. We saw it today. If by God's grace, we get to get up tomorrow, we only get to go 24 hours. That's it. You can worry all you want about the future. I'm not saying don't plan, but here's what I know. You're only going to get to walk around 24 hours at a time. So I think the Lord is inviting us to say, just live there. I'll take care of you. Do your planning within that, but ultimately, trust me. And I would say this, you go back and ask the question, why is it hard for me to trust? Why is it so hard for me to trust? There might have been something that happened up here at a point in your life that took a chunk of trust out down here, and now, because it's scary, you built a little bulletproof thing over there, and now the only way I can feel secure is when I pretend I've got more resource and power than I do. We've all been there, man, right? So I think the vine keeps saying, lean in, lean in, lean in. Thank you. That's really good. So here's what I'm asking you. I got one more, and then we're going to end, is this, desires. And indirectly, we've been saying these all night, whether it's desire for things to go a certain way, desire for control so we don't worry, desire for approval, desire. I'm thinking, though, I know this, that desire, when it gets disordered, Jesus talked about this. You know, if you look at Galatians 5, it talks about the longings of our flesh. I don't mean this in a negative sort of a way, but we can do that. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, but we want things. This is not going away. And one of the reasons we said this is the only reason you and I exist is because God actually desired us. He wanted us. He created us because He longed for us. We're made in His image, so He longed for us so that we'd long for Him. But when we start wanting something more than the one who actually created us, or begin to treat things disconnected, this creates tension. And so we wonder why life struggles more than it needs to. And so what I'm asking us is, I'd love to give us just a couple minutes before we end to really ask the Lord, Lord, is there something you want to talk to me about? Is there something right now? Because you want me to flourish. You've declared that you're the vine and we're the branches, that every resource you have is ours. Your power, your protection, your unyielding mercy. God, if we would close our eyes tonight in death, you've told us you've already prepared a place for us. That if we believe in Jesus Christ, we will live even if we physically die. There is never a point where we are not in your care, except in our minds where we choose to be. Father, would you speak to us for a moment? Maybe this would be a time even to confess to the Lord, to just reorient again. Maybe this would even be a time for you to declare to God, God, I want my life to be for and about you more than anything. If everything else, Lord, is uncertain, I can be certain about where my soul and my heart's going to anchor. And then I can trust you. The fact that we're here tonight, that we're alive, is a testimony to God's faithfulness. That we have clothes on our back, that we ate food today. We have a place to sleep. We have water to drink. Friendships. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you again that you didn't remain distant, but in the person of your Son, Jesus Christ, you came into the midst of the world you created so we could see what real living is like, that you could break the chains that hold us back and give us a hope that far exceeds what this world has ever known. Lord, every one of us in this room has things that we even unknowingly at times have allowed to drain and sap the very life-giving reality of who you are from us, and lie to us and deceive us, and have caused our hearts to be weighted with shame and discontent and worry. Lord, thank you that there's no one more for us than you. No one who wants us to flourish more than you. So I pray for each brother in here tonight, Lord, that you would affirm that in their soul in a good way, to the glory of your name. Amen. Listen, I want to just invite you guys again to take a card if you didn't get one. We have little memory cards here. If you have interest at all in wanting to at least learn more about the mentoring that Arnie and Charles shared, just write that on your name on the sheet on your table. You can give that to me. I'll take that, and then we'll break down the room. That would be really helpful, and then we can all go home and watch Monday Night Football or sleep, whatever you do. But Lord willing, we'll be back next week. And next week we're going to get into a little bit more this whole concept of pruning and how it actually happens. Okay? Some of the things God uses to begin to clip away so we can flourish. How sound fun? Great. And new guys are always welcome, so grab one and bring them with you. Let's stand and we'll do our card, and then we'll go from there. John 15, 1-5. Here we go. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I've spoken to you. Remain in me as I remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Amen. So as you look towards week 4 of this great series that we're doing, give some thought to this concept of pruning. Take a look at that a little bit more. Maybe Google something or do a little research on it. We're going to spend some time talking about some of the ways that we get pruned as human beings and the benefits of that when it actually occurs in our life.